Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels. We have our friend Marley Bird with us today to learn how to make this super cute granny stitch skirt in Caron cakes. My name is Renee L. from Yarn Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that Marley answers them. While we're getting ready to kick things off, let us know where you're watching from, and if you've ever done a granny stitch project before, we would love to know. Over to you, Marley.
Hello. Oh my gosh, there are so many new faces in here today and so many young faces, which leads me to believe a lot of you really want to make this really cute super granny skirt. Well, here I go. I got all of you. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Originally, I planned on just doing like a little swatch, thinking that it would be, we would be okay to get through that. But I think I'm changing gears here just literally as I speak. And I'm going to get you started on the extra small size. So that way, those of you who are like, I want to make this, I'm going to get you going with this. Okay. And we're going to get through as much as we can. And then you're going to have to put your thinking caps on and just go with me, because I'll have to jump ahead to how you do the finishing part. So that way, you know how to do it. Okay. But regardless, I know you guys can make this. It's so exciting to see so many fun, beautiful faces out there doing this. Okay. So the yarn for this pattern is Caron Cinnamon Swirl Cakes. Now this is a very fun yarn because the yarn changes colors on its own. In the pattern, they have us using two different colors, but I have two of the exact same color, and maybe you do at home as well. So what we are going to do is we're going to use two of the same color, but we're going to start the colors at two different spots in the color sequence. So it'll look like we're using two different colors as we're going around, but it's going to be the same color. We're just going to get different meshing of the color sequence. The process of changing colors is going to be the same, whether it's the same color or a different color. And that's the most important thing for you to learn. Okay. So all of us here, this is the pinky swear that Marley makes you do. Okay. You ready? This is going to be something that's a little bit tricky if you've never done it before. So you want to promise me, we're pinky swearing that we're going to give ourselves a little bit of grace, okay? You might not get it the first time, but if you put it down, pick it up again, you might not get it the second time. But usually the third or fourth time, it's like, oh, it's starting to click. It just takes your body a little bit of time to process it. So if it doesn't succeed the first time, don't let that be the end. You absolutely can do this. Just keep trying at it, okay? I promise you, you can do this. All right, everybody? All right, I saw the pinkies up there. Aditya, I see you out there. I saw the pinky swear. Okay, I'm going to switch screens, you guys, and here we go. So I am going to tackle this as if you've at least touched a crochet hook, okay? Because that's going to be important. And I'm using a Susan Bates size H, or it's a 5mm crochet hook. Now, the reason I'm using this hook size is because in the pattern, it tells me that the size that the designers used to get the measurements that they got was a size H. You can use whatever hook size you need to use to get the same size as the gauge, but right now we're going to start off with this H hook, okay? As I said, I'm using two of the exact same color of yarn here. This is like, what did I say? I think it's called Sweets. It's called Sweets. This is here. How do I pull this out? So you can pull from the center or the outside. Clearly, I was pulling from both. I just want to make sure that I have two different parts of the color coming through. So on one of mine, this one's like a purple and this one's like a brown. So I will have these two going with me. All right. But these are the two colors of yarn. You can use the same color. You could use two completely different colors. Totally up to you. If you are using two different colors, what you could do is on your label here, whatever color you decide that you're going to have as your color A, write color A on your label. So that way you don't get confused. Once you set this down, you have to pick it up again. If you're like, which color was which? It just really helps if you do color A on one label and then do color B on the second label. So that way you can remember. Okay, you with me so far? Perfect. Now, there are a variety of sizes that are offered here with the pattern itself. And I do want to remind you, this is a free pattern over at yarnspirations.com. I'm pretty sure Renee probably has already put a link to the pattern. So you can get this whole pattern on your own. And so you will choose the size that will fit your hip measurement. So you want to measure around your hips, and whatever size falls within there, wherever your hip measurement falls within there, that's what size you're going to end up making. So if you've never chosen over a size before and then tried to figure out how much yarn you would need, let's say you're making the extra small, small, you'd come over here to extra small, small, and you only need one ball of each color, okay? All of the other information, I'm just going to kind of let it hang out there, but the gauge, what this means is as we start making our project, we need to make sure that our measurement equals this. It's the same as this, so that way our skirt will fit correctly. Luckily, we do have a drawstring on it, so if it's a little bit bigger, the drawstring will allow it to be pulled close a little bit, so that will help you. All right. Chain 2 at the beginning of the round does not count as a stitch. Now that's really important because that's something that usually tricks people up when they're looking at their work. They don't know if they should count the first 2 stitches as a stitch or not. We will not. And that will help us is we will use stitch markers as at the start of our stitch so we know where it is. The rounds are joined with single crochets, and I added in here that we are working with a multiple of 3. So if you need to make any changes, it is a multiple of 3. Okay. All right. On yours, if you printed it out in color, you'll know that each one of these numbers here is a different color, and it corresponds with the size you're making. I'm going to be making the first size. So what I'm going to do is I'd like to take a highlighter and I highlight all the numbers that pertain to the size I'm making. So whenever you come to instructions where there's a bunch of numbers, you want to then make sure you're highlighting the number that pertains to the size you're making. So if there's only one number given, like in here, then it's for all the sizes. But when we get to where there's a bunch of different numbers, that's where it's important to know which one is yours, okay? Those are the things to start off with. I'm not going to go over the chart here yet. I will talk about that as we're working into it. Let's begin with chaining. We're going to chain 120. We're going to do that together. I'm going to set this over here. And we're going to begin with our color A. So my color A was the purple. What starts off as purple, it will change to a different color eventually. And we want to start off with a slip knot. Now for a slip knot, what I do is I take the tail of the yarn, I put it in the palm of my hand. I wrap it around the working yarn, wrap it around my forefinger and my middle finger. And when I come back up, I cross over, rotate my hand as I'm still hanging onto this. See how now it looks like I have 2 loops? If I go underneath that front loop and grab the back one and then let my fingers come out, I get myself a slip knot. Okay, I'm gonna do that one more time. Tail of the yarn in the palm of my hand. Wrap the yarn around my forefinger and my middle finger. Come back up, cross over. Turn my hand over so that I get the 2 loops here. Go underneath the front one, grab the back one, and pull it off. That is a slip knot. What we will do is we'll put that slip knot on your hook, and then you just pull the 2 legs apart, and you can see it tightens up. Now, what we want to make sure we're doing here is we are going to chain 120. Then it says join with the slip stitch to the first chain to form a ring, being careful not to twist the chain. I'm going to show you guys a trick that I use, and I'm always afraid that it's not going to work, but we're going to do it a couple times, okay? Let's get a few chains going on here. So we're holding our yarn in our left hand, our hook in our right hand, if you're right-handed. We go from left underneath the yarn and up. This is called a yarn over. And then you grab that yarn with your hook and pull it through that slip knot. But do not tug. Do not make that any tighter than it is. Leave it that size. Then we do it again. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. I'm going to pause here for a minute. I'm going to take my hook out of my loop. I'm going to come down here to that very first chain I did. I'm just going to put my hook inside of it. And then I'm going to come back up here and put my hook. I can come back up here, put my hook back into the chain. Okay. So actually, I think I need to go the opposite way. This is where I always get confused. Nope, it's this way. I was correct. Here, put my hook back into the chain. Now what this is going to do is when I I'm going to keep chaining just with this. But when I come back around, I am already in my chain here without it being twisted. So I'm going to completely ignore that that's down there, and I'm just going to keep on crocheting. So there's a chain there, and just keep going. You guys see that? Now you don't have to do this part if you don't want to. We can always just check and make sure our chain is not twisted, but this is just one of those little tricks that it helps you to make sure your chain is not twisted when you get to the end. And you'll notice that as I'm doing each chain, like I do a chain, and then with my left hand, I move it up along the chain to make sure that doesn't get very big. And I like pinch the chain that I just created. All right, there. And I just keep going. What's really handy, you guys, is if you're working on this, say you're working on this with me and you don't get nearly as far as I do today, which is totally okay. All of this is getting recorded and you will be able to watch it on YouTube and you'll be able to follow along. But as you practice, all of this will be easier and easier. I promise it'll get easier and easier. Okay. Now we are supposed to chain 120. And I'm wondering, remember I said the multiple is 3. So if I did at least a multiple of 3 chains on here, I would be okay. So I'm just going to keep going until I can get some more stitches on here. And then I'm going to count and check it all out. I'm getting a request to start again. So that's what I'm going to do here. Keep going. If you have this, keep going. I'm going to just start this one more time. Okay. Yarn in the palm of my hand. Working yarn wrapped around my forefinger and middle finger, come back up and cross over. Rotate my hand. You can go underneath that front loop, grab the back one, and we're going to pull our fingers out and we get ourselves a slip knot. And now we're going to start doing our chains. So I hold the yarn. You'll see I'm holding the knot with my left hand and I have the hook in my hand. I go from left underneath the yarn and I come up. And then as I pull this yarn through the loop on my hook, say I'm holding it with my thumb here, and I have my hook like pointed down. Okay, can you see how it's like pointed down? And it just pops through. And I do not want to make that any tighter, okay? Just leave it right there. Put my thumb on it, and I do it again. So there was 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. What I can do here though, so that's 5, I could take my hook out, come back here to the first one I did and stick my hook right through the middle of it. And then come up here and put that loop back on my hook. And I'm just going to ignore what I did down here. And I just keep going. 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to get a multiple of 3, okay? You guys try and get 120 if you can. 9, 12, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, oops, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 is a multiple of 9, right? 27. And then you'll join. Now I'm going to check my count here before I join. So what I'm going to do, so the first one is on my hook, right? Let's do this. I'm going to straighten this out so you guys can see. My loop is right here, so I'm just going to leave it there. With my hook into the first stitch. If you look at it on the table like this, can you kind of see how it looks like a V? It looks like a V. Each of those V's is a chain. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Did I do 28? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I did 28, so I get to pull one out. All right, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to check your comments because I haven't been able to. Renee, what are we seeing over here?
Not a ton. I'm just kind of referring folks to some of our earlier resources on Crochet 101 and also just like some of the basics. Sometimes we have to get through a lot in a class. So
Yeah.
personally, I like to just like have a coffee or have a lemonade and just watch and then check it out on YouTube afterwards. You can find it on the Michaels YouTube channel where you can pause, rewind, and actually slow it down to even like half speed, which I love very, very much. But
Perfect.
yeah.
All right. Well, depending on what size you're making, if you get 120, or if you want to do a little sample like what I did 27 stitches. What we want to do now is we want to join with a slip stitch to the first chain. So what we want to make sure that none of this is twisted. So none of my stitches are twisted. You can see it goes right around here and it comes back up. So to join with a slip stitch, it's literally as simple as if you did it like this, it's as simple as pulling that loop just through, just like so. If you didn't join at the start, all you're going to do is find where the bottom of your chain is, just like this. Go into it, go into your loop, and pull that through. It's really just that easy, okay? So we joined with a slip stitch to the first, and now we have a ring. So what's gonna happen, this is your base, you guys. This is your first line that now we can start building all of your blocks on, essentially, okay? Once we do that, we're gonna start now where we're working in rounds. So we have first round, we're gonna chain one stitch. Then we're gonna do one single crochet into each chain all the way around and then join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet. So what we will do is just like we were doing before, we're going to do a chain. So I yarn over my hook and I pull up a loop. That does not count as a stitch, okay? I go to where my very first stitch is. It's that V right there. I'm going to go into that V. I'm just poking all the way into it. Yarning over just like we did when we chained, right? So I'm to the left underneath, yarning over. You want to yarn over. If you yarn under, which is what is done in a lot of amigurumi, you'll get a different type of stitch. For this, you want to make sure your yarn is going over top of your hook, and then you're going to pull that loop through the chain and just pull it up. So now you get 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to do it again. We yarn over top of our hook and then pull that through both loops on your chain. And that is a single crochet. It's at this point, I'm going to have you grab your marker. And if you hold your hook up just like so, you'll notice there's a loop on your hook. And behind it, can you see right there? Can you see how that looks like a V? It looks like it's the top of the chain, just kind of like what we did before. That is the top of your new single crochet. And that is where you're going to join when you go all the way back around. So what I want you to do is take a stitch marker. It could be a bobby pin, it could be a safety or a paper clip or a stitch marker, it could be anything. I want you just to stick it right into both of the legs, the full V of that stitch, and let's mark it so we know where we're coming back to, okay? Once we've done that, we now can go on. So now we go on to the next chain. So you did one, you're going to go to the next. Stick your hook into it, yarn over, pull up a loop. So you have 2 loops on your hook. Notice I bring my hook up parallel, like I don't keep it like this. I bring it up so it's parallel, okay? Yarn over, and then pull through the 2 loops on your hook. We don't have to mark this one. We just had to mark the first one. We're going to do this all the way around. And depending on how many chains you did, you're going to have that many single crochets. So I had 27 chains. So I'm going to have 27 single crochets. I know originally I said I was going to do 120, but then I was like, you know what? We'll never get through the whole class to get through what we need to do. So I'm just going from finishing one, going to the next chain and doing it again. And I'm making sure they are not too tight. The loop that goes onto your hook, you guys, you want to make sure that that loop remains the same size as your hook. That's how you make sure that your stitches are nice and consistent. And you make sure that your stitches are not too tight or too loose. That's why there are different hook sizes. It helps keep the different sizes of the loops on your hook. Okay.
Marley, can I
Yes.
bug you for a quick question? Well, not bug
Sure.
you, but interrupt
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
We had a question that said, can you show where you found the first stitch again after you did one chain stitch? She couldn't tell if it was the top or the bottom of the first V. So how would we?
Okay, so let's pretend it was right here. So is my camera in focus? Yeah. Okay. So let's pretend this was my chain. Okay. Here, and so here's my chain. Here's my V. I don't go through just one loop. I literally, like if you're looking at the V just like so, I literally just pop right through the center. So what it looks like that top loop is on my hook and it looks like the back loop is on my hook. So it kind of looks like you have two legs on your hook. Can you see that? And this part, honestly, you guys, don't overthink it. If it's more comfortable for you to just go into that top loop, like the top loop of the V, you can absolutely do that. I just prefer to go right through the center and just get a stitch right there. Does that make sense?
I think that made it very uncomplicated and perfect.
Okay, I hope so.
Don't overthink it.
This is such a minor little part of the whole pattern, that no matter what you do, just be consistent with it is the end game. So like right now, because I've been going through both, like I want to say both, but right through the center, if I switched to where I was just going through the top, it would be visible. But if I started with just going through the top and did it all the way around, it'd be no difference. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in. I'm just going to keep going. And again, make sure you're not making these super tight. If you find you are crocheting really tight, you might need to go up a hook size. But more often than not, it's a matter of usually people are tight because they yarn over like this and they pull through and then they tug it real tight. And when you tug that real tight, it tightens up that stitch and the stitch on your hook, and it makes that whole stitch squattier and it just is harder to work into. So you want to make sure you're keeping those nice and consistent with the size hook you have. Don't make them too loose. Don't make them too tight. If you use your hook as the tool it is to keep them the same size, you will be just fine going all the way around. And listen, I know I make this look easy, you guys. I've been doing this for 25 years. So I get it. Like I've had a lot of practice. But at the beginning, I can tell you for sure that I looked like Bambi on ice with the crochet hook. Like it was not pretty. So I understand if this feels odd, it feels uncomfortable, or maybe you're holding your hook like this, which is totally fine. You can hold your hook like this. You don't have to hold it like a pencil like I do. I was just taught with it like a pencil, so it's very easy for me to do that. But you can hold your hook either way. Just know at the end of the day, you have to do what's comfortable for you and just be consistent with what you're doing, and all of your stuff will turn out beautifully. Okay. And remember, we all have to learn. You couldn't ride a bike the first time. You couldn't write your name or even letters the first time, or you probably could draw a little bit more intricate of a stick figure now than you could when you first started. It's all about muscle memory and just learning. Like you guys are more than competent enough to do these stitches. It's just your brain and your body need to get used to doing them all together. Okay. So I've come around to where this is the part of the pattern where I'm like, so do I have another stitch here? Like it looks like I do, but do I? So this would be really where I would count again. There's a lot of counting here at the start. So I'm going to extend that just so that it doesn't go anywhere. And remember, I marked this one, so I know that's my first one. So when I go to count my stitches, just like I counted my chains, I look for the V at the top of the stitch. So this is my first one. So I'm just going to count and see if I have 27. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, which lets me know that that last one there is a stitch I need to work into. And then I'm going to join with that where my stitch marker is with a slip stitch, just like we did at the start. So let me get here. By the way, did you guys notice my colors changed? My colors changed here, right there. They just naturally start to change color, and that's fine. I'm gonna move my tail out of the way. So I'll go into this last one here. So that would be my 27. And then if you marked your stitch, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the stitch. Case do, this is probably the easiest way to see how you're going to work into stitches, by the way, because this is the top of your stitch where both of those loops are. This is the front loop. This is the back loop. And notice I have my hook, my stitch marker through both loops. More often than not, unless a pattern tells you otherwise, you're always going to go underneath both loops to work any of the stitches moving forward. So you'll go underneath both loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, and continue on pulling that loop through the one on your hook. And that is a slip stitch, you guys. Okay, that completed that full round. Okay, everybody good so far? Okay, because I have a lot of beginners here, I'm gonna correct something on the Yarnspirations thing just because of the way it's in common crochet. A cluster pattern is actually a bunch of stitches that come together and create one complete stitch like this. Okay, I know it's foggy. There we go. A cluster pattern is where they come together and they complete one, like if this was the top of the stitch, if this was your V, they complete one. But a granny stitch, where it's 3 double crochets, they actually all come together in one stitch where they're being placed, but they're each individually stitches. They each have their own top hat. So I would not call this a granny cluster at all. I call them granny sets, a granny set. Some people will even call them a granny double crochet set, but it is not a cluster. Even though they referred to it as a cluster in here, it's just a word, but I want you to know so that way as you come across clusters in the future, you can be like, oh, okay, there's a difference there, okay? It's just a wording thing. I just want you guys to be aware of it. So here we go. We're still working with color A. We're going to chain 2 stitches, and remember, those 2 stitches do not count as a stitch, so we will not put our marker in there. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets into the same stitch as that slip stitch. So where we did that slip stitch right here that's still marked, we're going to do 3 double crochets into that one. So having that marker there is really going to help you know exactly where you're going to put your stitches. And when we complete those, let's keep reading. I'm sorry, up here, let's keep reading. 3 double crochets in the same stitch, skip the next 2 single crochets, and then 3 double crochets in the next single crochet. Well, the 3 double crochets, that's your granny set. Okay, every time you do 3 double crochets into one stitch or one space, that's your granny set. Then it says skip the next 2 single crochets, repeat from star. So we go back up here to star, and we keep doing the granny set, skip 2, granny set, skip 2. And to the end of the work, join with the single crochet to the top of the first stitch. The reason I wanted to read all the way through to here, because we know we're going to join with a single crochet to the top of the very first stitch we create. So when we do our first 3 double crochets, we're going to put our marker into the top of the very first double crochet we do in this double crochet set. Make sense? Hopefully it does. All right, so here we go. Starting off, let me change my focus again. Okay, so we're going to chain 2. So just like before, you chain, you yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. That does not count as a stitch. Now it said to do 3 double crochets into the same stitch you did your slip stitch in. Luckily, we still have it marked, so we know exactly where that is. So a double crochet, you guys ready? You yarn over your hook to begin with, okay? Over your hook. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. We go into that space or that stitch underneath both of those legs, just like we did when we did the slip stitch, and we yarn over our hook again. pull that yarn over through the stitch and up. You now have 3 stitches on your hook. Notice that my hook is sort of diagonal, where I didn't, this first pull up I didn't pull it up like this. It's because that would make my stitches really long, and I don't want them to be that long. I want them to be all relatively the same size as I pull through. So I leave it a little bit diagonal. So I have 3 loops on my hook. We want to work off these 3 loops, working 2 at a time. So you yarn over your hook and pull through 2 of the loops, and that leaves you with 2 loops. Yarn over your hook, pull through the 2 loops, and now you're left with 1. Congratulations, that's probably the first double crochet for many of you. You did a very good job. All right, we're going to do 2 more of those into that same spot, but before we do, we don't want to forget that we're going to mark that. Remember I said that we are going to join to the very first stitch we created with the single crochet. So I'm using a different marker here. Here is the V. Can you see it right there? That's the V behind the loop on my hook. I'm going to take my stitch marker, and like I said, it could be a bobby pin, it could be a paper clip, it could be anything. I'm going to stick it right through there just so that I know where that is. Okay. Now I'm going to do 2 more single or double crochets right here. Yarn over your hook, right? So we yarned over, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. If you've done everything correctly, they should be the same size. Yarn over your hook, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. We've now done 3 double crochets into 1 stitch. This is a granny set. It's not a cluster, okay? It's a set. I can now remove the marker that was on the bottom from the previous row, right? I don't need that anymore. So I can remove that. That one's in play. We're good. Now, if you remember, the pattern says now, skip the next 2 single crochet. So we look down here. We can see all of our stitches are in this one. So you find the V, there's 1, right? You see there's the V, there's 1. There's the V, there's 2. So we skip both of those. We go to the 3rd one, and we're going to do 3 double crochets in that one. So you yarn over your hook, go underneath both of those legs. Can you see that? I'm underneath both of them. Yarn over the hook, pull up a loop. So I have 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Now, regardless of what size you are making, what we are doing right now is what you will do. So whether you have 27 stitches like me, or 120 stitches, or 204 stitches, you're still going to work it just like this, just so everybody knows. So we have 1 there, we have to put 2 more into that same stitch. So yarn over our hook, into the stitch, yarn over our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over our hook, pull through 2, yarn over our hook, pull through 2. You'll notice that I tend, with my left hand, I tend to grab the base or the post of each stitch as I make them, just like I did when I was doing my chains. It really helps to make sure that I'm not letting these overstretch. So into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You notice I come right underneath, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, I come right underneath again, and I pull through 2. It just helps me maintain control of my stitches. And then we repeat. So you go, you find there's 1 V, there's 2 V, here's the 3rd one right here. So we do our 3 double crochets again into there. We're gonna do this all the way around. I'm gonna keep going here. I'm gonna kind of pause and ask Renee how things are going, because I'm not able to look at the chat as I'm working this. It makes it a little tricky, but thank God for Renee.
Pretty good. Marianne did ask if this was a smaller version to show us or if this is 2 size. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, this, I mean, it'd be like doll size.
A skirt for your wrist, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, good. How's everybody else doing? Remember, you guys all pinky swore that you wouldn't get super frustrated because I know it can be a little bit tricky, but it will, I'm telling you, it will all of a sudden just make sense. Sometimes it takes just a couple minutes, sometimes it takes a couple hours, sometimes it takes a couple days, but it will click for you.
Absolutely. You have to give yourself so much grace when you're like new at anything or just learning anything. It's part of the process.
And it's not easy to do. I will tell you, when I learned to knit, I've told this story before, but I literally threw my knitting across the room because I was like, I don't want to do, like, I just could not understand the concept of what I was doing. Like, because I was a crocheter first. So I was trying really hard to understand the movement of my needles and the yarn and how it was creating stitches compared to crochet. Because, you know, crochet, we bind off each stitch as we go, right? We're knitting, they're all live. And I just could not understand it. And my husband was just like, well, doesn't so-and-so knit? And I was like, well, yeah. And I'm so competitive. I went and picked up my knitting and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And now it's like one of my favorite things to do. Like it just took a little bit of time for my brain to catch up, or my hands really to catch up with my brain. And then all of a sudden everything is like, oh, I understand this now. So I know that I might make things look super easy, but you got to remember, I've been doing this, I mean, longer than most of you have been alive. All right, so I've gone all the way around, and this is one of those things I want to make sure. I know that my thing is a little fuzzy. Let me see. I have to keep messing around with the focus because there we go. So on here, we did our skip 2 and then we did our star, right? That was our repeat. So we did 3 double crochets. So that's our 3 double crochet set in the single crochet, and then we'd skip 2 singles, and then it repeats from star. So right here, I just did my 3 double crochets, right? So my 3 double crochets. So now I would skip 2, and I would do this all the way to the end, join with a single crochet to the top of the first stitch. So if my repeat is 3 double crochets, skip 2, here's my 3 double crochets, here's my skip 2. So now I'm going to join with the single crochet right here where that marker is. Okay, you guys with me? Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave the marker there because it's already through both of the legs I want to go into. So I'm going to go right into it, right next with that marker. Yarn over. Remember, this is a single crochet. So I don't have a yarn over to start. I just go right into it. Yarn over, pull up a loop. And this time I'm doing a single crochet, not a slip stitch, which means I have to yarn over and draw through 2. And that is a single crochet. Okay, I'm going to pause with this here because we're going to look at the second round, because now it says we're going to, with color B, chain 2, 3 double crochet around, joining with a single crochet. So chain 2, 3 double crochet around, joining single crochet. Oh, we're going to do the 3 double crochet around this single crochet right here is what we're doing. Okay. Okay, we can do that. You guys are going to be a little bit more advanced crocheters here. You guys ready? Okay. So typically when you join a new color, I'm going to show you this, even though they didn't say it in the pattern, I'm going to show you because I want all of you to be capital C crocheters. Okay. Typically, when you change colors on the very last draw through of the stitch you created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this stitch undo. So I'm undoing that last stitch. And I'm getting to the part where there's just 2 loops on my hook. Does that make sense? Here, I'll start again. Here's where I have to do my single crochet. I go in, yarn over, pull up a loop. And now this is where I'm going to stop. I'm actually going to drop this color A, and I'm going to find my color B. Make sure you leave yourself a nice long tail. You don't have to leave yourself a short tail, you guys. A longer tail is better because then you can weave it in later. But we're going to actually wrap our yarn with our yarn over with our color B and pull that through, okay? What this is doing is now we have color B on our hook and it's ready to start for the next row. All right, so on this next one, we are not going to be working into this marked stitch right here. We're actually going to create stitches into this whole space right here. All right, we're not even actually going to go into any stitch. We're going to go into this big space. Might seem confusing, but you got this. We're literally going to essentially work all of our stitches around that single crochet we just did. Okay, so we're going to do 3 double crochets around that single crochet. And here's how you're going to do it. Leave your color A hanging out. You're just going to ignore that. Don't do anything with it. With color B now, we want to chain 2. So chain 1 and chain 2. Okay. Now we're going to do double crochets into this space, into that big space. So we yarn over our hook, right? Go into that big space. Literally, I'm just into that big space. Yarn over my hook and pull up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, draw through 2. Yarn over, draw through 2. Because I want to know where I'm going to join again, once I finish my first one, I'm going to take my marker. I'm going to put it underneath both legs of that V behind the loop on my hook and put my marker there. Okay. I can remove this one now. And now I want to put 2 more double crochet here. So I yarn over my hook, go into the space, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over my hook, draw through 2, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. One more, yarn over my hook, go into the space, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over my hook, draw through 2, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Okay. All right. Now it says skip the next 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet between 3 double crochet just skipped and the next 3 double crochet set. Wow, that sounds way more confusing than it really is. Like you're just like, what? You're gonna what? Let's break it down to make it like purely the simplest it can possibly be, because literally we're just gonna put stitches between those granny sets. All right, instead of working into the individual stitches. So case 2, this is going to be way easier, right? Instead of working into each of those stitches, we're going to work into that big old space, the gap between those granny sets, and it's going to make things so much easier, which means everything that we have just done is like a lot trickier than the rest of this pattern. The rest of the pattern, it's pretty darn easy. So we skip all of this. We come over here to where that big hole is right there, and we're going to do our granny set. So yarn over our hook, go into that big hole, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Okay. Yarn over our hook, go into the big old hole, yarn over the loop, pull up, or yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, pull through 2, yarn over your hook, pull through 2. And we'll do that again, so that we get 3 double crochet there, and we just keep repeating this. Okay, we keep doing this to the end of the round. Join with the single crochet to the top of the first stitch, which is the one we marked. Okay, so now we don't really have to think too much about, counting. We're really just going to go in literally to each of those big gaps there. We're going to go into each one and do our granny set. So you're going to do 3 double crochets into each one. And you're going to see this gets really comfortable, and you're going to get faster and faster as you go. Make sure you are keeping all of those stitches the same size as your hook so that you're not letting them get bigger or smaller. Okay. Want to make sure you're keeping them all the same size. I'm going to do this. And here's the fun part, guys. This row that we're working right here, this is what you're going to keep doing for the whole pattern. Right? This is where we got, oh, we're going to get to a new color here. This is fun. So I'm going to keep going here. When we get to the end of this row and we join with our single crochet, we're actually going to join and change colors at the same time. So you guys are going to be big time crocheters here, knowing all of the ins and outs of changing colors and whatnot too, which is so important as you move on to your crocheting career and changing colors for stuff, whether it's garments or amigurumi or bags or blankets. It's important to know the way to change colors so that you don't get color bleeds. All right, so I'm coming up to the end and see there's not another gap for me, right? So I know that it's at this point, I'm going to join with my single crochet here. So remember, I go into where I have that marker, go in. I'm going to yarn over with the yarn I'm using. Now I'm going to drop this. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to find the yarn that I just kind of let hang out. I'm literally just going to carry it up. See, I'm just carrying it up. And I'm going to yarn over with the yarn that I just let hang out. So now that yarn is on my hook, ready to go. My color B is over here hanging out, not doing anything with it. And it's at this point, I repeat the second round. Okay, so let me bring this up here a little bit closer. Move this aside. So if you remember a second round, we start off with a chain 2. And then we're going into this big old space. We're working around that single crochet we did. And we're going to do our granny set. Okay. Now I didn't mark the first one, but I want to show you, maybe you have forgot how to do that. Maybe you forgot not how. Maybe you forgot to mark your first one too. Here's how you will find out which one you're supposed to mark. So we know we've just done 3 double crochets. So if I look at the top of my work here, here's the first V behind my hook, so that's 1 stitch. Here's the second V behind my hook, that's 2nd stitch. Here's the 3rd V. So that was the 3rd stitch, or it was the very first stitch I created. So I could put the marker in there so that way I know where my single crochet has to go at the end. I can take this one out and keep going. All right. Does it make sense, you guys? All right. So now we're going back over here to this big hole, right? Go to the big hole and make your 3 double crochets into that big hole. Renee, how we doing?
Good so far, I think. Tina said the chart helps a lot. I completely agree.
I agree. I like the chart as well. I haven't referred to it yet because I wanted to make sure I was getting you guys going here before we get to the chart. But as you're doing this, you're just going to keep repeating these 2 rounds until your piece measures the distance measured, that what it says in the pattern. So whether it's 16, 17, 18, 20, or 21, or I mean, if you wanted to go longer, you could do whatever you want. And then you have the waistband, and all the waistband is going to do is you're just decreasing stitches by eliminating, I'll show you what you're going to do. I'm going to get to the end of this so that I can show them how to do that in this last 10 minutes here. Because the rest it's pretty darn easy as far as the drawstring. I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to do the drawstring and the finishing. Folding things over. Let me get to the end. Yeah, I'm really glad I just did the little swatch so that way I could get to some parts here.
For sure. And you get like a little cuff just for you.
A little something. A little something. Maybe a little collar for my doggies. Actually, it's too small. It's too small. But
for the cat.
There you go, because she will love that. All right.
Cats,
so
famously lovers of clothing.
I know, right? I'm to the end. I would join with my single crochet. Now, because I'm going to jump down here to the waistband facing, it says to continue with color A. I'm not going to break yarn, but actually I am. I'm going to break the color B because I'm not going to go back to it, right? So when it talks about breaking your yarn, cut your yarn, leave yourself a nice long tail. Leave yourself a nice long tail because you can weave that in later. Do not crochet over your ends. Your work will come undone. So we pulled it up. We're going to finish with our single crochet. Now it says with A, chain 1, skip joining single crochet, 1 single crochet into each stitch around, join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet. Well, we know how to do that. Out of focus. Okay. Chain 2, working in the front loop only. So see what I mean about how it's italicized? If a pattern ever wants you to go into just the front or just the back, it will tell you. Working into the front loop only, half double crochet into each single crochet. And then here, working into both loops, 1 half double crochet into each of the next, blah, 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 chain 1, blah, blah, blah. So I want to make sure, and then see right here, working into the back loop only, 1 half double crochet. So it tells you what to do. Let me get here. So we've done our single crochet here. So it tells us to chain 1. It tells us to skip the single crochet we just did, right? It tells us to skip the single crochet and then 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I will put the single crochet where my marker was. So there's 1. I'm going to put my marker here and I'm going to get cruising here. I'm literally just going to go in, and just like we did on the very first one, we're just doing single crochets into each stitch all the way around. And this is going to give you a your waistband here. So it's going to give you space for where you're going to put your drawstring. Well, let's go through here real quick and get your single crochets, because I'm running out of time. So I want to make sure you guys get the instructions that you need. Time goes fast when you're having fun, right? And again, I'm just doing single crochets. You know how to do these. I know I'm going wicked fast. I don't expect you to be like, oh, what is she doing here? I'm just doing single crochets. I'm not really demonstrating that right now. I just need to move on to the next part, because unlike TV cooks, I don't have another one in the oven that I could just pull out. So this is where I am. And I'm going to get to here. I think that's because that was the last single crochet. So join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet. That's the first one I did. So I'm going to join. All right. So it'll tell you how many single crochets you should have. And then we're going to go to round 2. It says chain 2. Working in the front loops only, 1 half double crochet in each single crochet around. Well, here's the first one. So front loop only, half double crochet. Let me get my focus. For a half double crochet, you yarn over your hook, just like you would your double. We're going to go into the front loop only, meaning we're just going to go into that front loop of the V. You guys see that? The front loop of the V. Yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. And what makes this different than a double, you guys, is we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 loops. Okay? Yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. Okay? I'm going to put my marker here. It's the very first stitch. And then I'm just doing this all the way around. So go into the front, all 3 loops. Make sense? I hope this makes sense to you guys. How's it going out there, Renee?
It's good so far. Julia called it a cup cuff, which I think is correct also.
Yep. Yep. Exactly correct.
Julia also said earlier, this is kind of the beauty of granny stitches. You're just working into the holes. You just work in the gaps.
Yeah, with granny stitches, there's so many different ways to do a granny square. You can work into stitches, you can work into chains, you can work around chains, you can work into spaces. I mean, it's really, there's a lot of ways to do it, but this is a really user-friendly way. I know it probably didn't feel that way at the start, because you do have to work into some stitches to get it going. But once it gets going, you're off to the races, because you just work into those big old gaps. And it's not super difficult. And again, I know I'm going relatively quickly here, but I'm assuming you know how to do a half double crochet now that I've showed you. And now I'm literally just working into the front loop. And you'll notice it's easy to go in from the bottom up as I'm going around. It just makes it a little bit easier. I'm almost at the end of my round. And the instructions just say join. So it doesn't tell me if I'm joining with a slip stitch or not. So I'm just going to assume I'm joining with a slip stitch. So when I get to the end here, I'm going to join with a slip stitch. So I will just go in here. And what the next one, working through both loops, I'll just join with both. Okay. All right. So on the third round, I know this is fuzzy, it says chain 2, working in both loops this time, 1 half double crochet in each of the next 58 stitches if you were making the smallest size. Then it says chain 1, skip the next half double crochet, 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then chain 1, skip the next. So what you're essentially, you're creating like holes for your drawstring and stuff to work into. But because I don't have like working in both loops, 1 half double crochet in each of the next 58, like I don't have 58 stitches. But I want to show you what you would do if it was chain 1, skip the next 1 to half double crochet in the next 2. So let's just get it started here. So I'm just going to get started with my half double into both loops. Remove that. If I was working on this, let's just pretend I got to like my 58. Okay. So let's pretend I got to my 58. Then it tells me to chain 1. So I would chain 1. And then it says skip the next half double crochet. So I would look for the V, right? I'd skip that one. And then it says 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 or 3, depends on what size you're making. So we're going to do 2. So there's 1, and then there's 2. And then it says chain 1. Skip the next half double crochet in each stitch to the end of the row. So I would half double crochet into each stitch at the end to the end of the row. Does that make sense to you guys? All right, so we have an opening here. You see that? It's where your drawstring is going to come out of. Okay. All right. Knowing that, when you get to the end, it says working into back loops only, 1 half double crochet in each single crochet and chain 1. Now that's a question there, Renee. 1 half double crochet in each single crochet, but we just did half double crochets. Or is I'm going down. Am I working down here?
Sorry, what was the question?
Okay. So on the fourth round, chain 2, working in back loops only, 1 half double crochet in each single crochet and chain 1 space around, join. Chain 2, working in both loops. So right here, see it says in each single crochet. Can you see that? But on round 3, we worked half double crochets.
I think we improv and then we'll bring that to design and see what they say.
Well, so I just don't know if they're wanting me to go back, come down here to the back loops that I have opened back here, or if they want me, because it doesn't say that, but I just was, that's where the designer in me is like, is that where we are? Anyways, let's get a clarification on that from what they want us to do there, because it says single, but we just did doubles. And then they have us working in both loops, half double crochet around, and then fasten off. You guys know, you know how to do that. So as far as fasten off, all that means is we're going to just finish off our rounds. So I know we're running out of time, Felicia. I'm trying really hard to just get going through here, just almost. I'm trying to go so fast, I'm splitting the yarn. But I want to make sure they know. Okay. I don't want to leave them all hanging completely. It's not super bad. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not too bad. My instinct is that you guys will just keep working on top of the half doubles, not single crochets. And then what will happen is it will be folded over and you stitch it, but it could be that it's having you stitch it into the back loops of the single crochets where you only did the front loops. I'm just not sure.
I think it would make sense if it was like, as Julia put it, kind of a rolled waistband.
Right.
That would make sense. And it's sort of like a tube for the drawstring.
Right. Then that's what I'm thinking. I just want to make sure. So if that was the case, it would be chain 2, and then, but it would make sense. You'd have to come down here to the back loops over here
and seal it in, like, yeah, close it.
Let me just try it.
And guys, sometimes we have to improv. Sometimes we're trying to understand the language of the pattern or their intention. And sometimes we find our own hacks and ways around doing things. And that's kind of what's nice about crochet is you can make it your own. You're kind of learning problem solving on the fly, maybe not on day one.
Right. Yeah.
But
It just seems like,
eventually.
I mean, this is a possible way that they're having you do it. It's a little bit more extreme, like more advanced. Because then once you get all the way around, Renee, see how it's going to be open here? So then your final round would be joining those two together, and it would give you a hole there. But I don't know if that's what it's intending, because you don't see it on the front, right? Like I didn't miss it. I don't think I did. Sorry guys, I just want to make sure. Yeah, it doesn't, I don't see it. And they have it listed as easy. So that makes me think that's not what they're having you do. Anyways, when you get to the end, when it tells you to finish off, literally pull through with your slip stitch. Okay, so I pulled through with my slip stitch, and I like to just do a chain one, cut, pull the yarn all the way through. And just because I have you here and I told you not to crochet over your tails, you're going to get a bent tip tapestry needle, you guys, and you just thread your tail onto your bent tip tapestry needle and weave it down the inside of your work and just go up and down, zigzag around like a snake. And that is a much better way to weave in your ends than crocheting over them, because if you crochet over them, they will eventually come undone, and you don't want to be wearing it and then all of a sudden have a really big hole. Once you've gone up and down at least 3 or 4 times, you can cut your yarn and it'll be secure. Everything will be safe. All right. Everything else, I think you can do it. I think you can do it. All right. So I ran over just a little bit, but I tried my best to get through as much of this as I could. Yes, a bent tip tapestry needle, you guys. There are plastic ones out there as well. I prefer the metal ones. I think they're easier to get through all the yarn stitches and everything. Okay. Woo, I gotta take a breath. Goodness.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. This has been a lot of fun. It seems like we had a lot of young people and a lot of beginners. And that is great. We're so happy to have you joining us in the craft. And we hope that you revisit this video a little bit later, once it's up, and we hope you continue with the craft. And
yeah.
Marley, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, I'm the Marley Bird. On YouTube, I'm Marley Bird. If you just type in Marley Bird, and it's Marley, M-A-R-L-Y. There's no E. So that's where I am. I'm on Facebook.
Amazing.
I'm just about everywhere. Just
Marley's
on
everywhere.
TikTok. Yeah.
Awesome. And as for us, you can find us at Your Inspirations pretty much everywhere. And if you make anything that you learned today or in future classes, please use hashtag #MakeItWithMichaels and hashtag Yarnspo. That's YARNSPO. And just a reminder that you can find more classes on michaels.com. Please really highly recommend you peruse the website. There are tons of crochet classes for you to learn this summer and anytime. And today's recording can be found at michaels.com/classes and the YouTube channel. And as I said in the chat, the archive is so great. Any classes we've done up to this point are all there. Please check it out. I think that's it for me. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good luck. Good luck.